Yes, hi everyone and welcome. My name is Susie, and before we get started, I just want to do the acknowledgement of country. So, in the spirit of reconciliation, Reef Check Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. The land on which I now stand in the Byron Shire is the Bundjalung country. And welcome to all of you online and to my special friends joining us from South Africa. Thank you so much and good morning to you. I know it's morning over there for you. So thank you for being with us. It's lovely to have you and to have you all here. So just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Susie and I'm a Reef Check Ambassador. So I've been an ambassador since about September last year, so I'm still a newbie. And this is only, I think, my second event that I've participated in. So yeah, it's really exciting to be here with you all and to share this Beeswax wrap workshop. I'm currently a full-time student studying marine habitat conservation and restoration, as well as doing my TAE, which is the training and assessment course. And as well as being a Reef Check ambassador, I also volunteer with an organisation called Australian Seabird Rescue that we rescue turtles and seabirds, and I'll show you a little image of that relates to our workshop today a little bit later. So as Reef Check volunteers, we empower people through education and information about how best to change our habits, and even just making small habits. Each one of us can make a big difference in the impact that we have in the environment, in the marine environment, as well as in the land environment. So obviously, with Reef Check Australia, we focus on the reefs and the health of the reef and oceans. So as well as being an ambassador, I'm hoping to become a Reef Check surveyor, and surveyors are volunteers as well who use their scuba diving skills and surveying skills underwater to monitor the health of the reefs in the Great Barrier Reef and also in Western Australia. So beeswax wraps are a really awesome way that we can all make a difference in reducing the amount of plastic that we use. Obviously, we're replacing plastic cling wrap, which is non-recyclable, and it's a single-use plastic. So it's a really toxic substance for the environment. And Julie, if you'd like to share that image of our beautiful rainbow turtle, if you would like to share that screen. So with my work at Seabird Rescue, we look after turtles, and this image that you see here is of a beautiful turtle that we rescued, and we named it Rainbow. And everything that you see to the left of Rainbow is actually all the plastic that Rainbow had ingested while out at sea. And the reason turtles ingest plastic, they think it's jellyfish because that's what they feed on. And so they mistake plastic bags for jellyfish, and obviously they get very, very sick. So Rainbow was washed up at a beach, and lovely people who found Rainbow on the beach, they called us, we went to rescue Rainbow, brought her to the hospital, and she stayed with us for several months. And we just watched her release all this plastic. And even in one of my shifts, when I was there, she was just so uncomfortable releasing all this plastic. So yes, we do have to seep through the poop to look for the plastic and then clean it out. And that's how we end up with all this plastic. So I just wanted to share that image with you to see the effects that plastic has on marine life. And what a difference we can make by using beeswax wraps instead of cling wrap. Okay, so let's get back to making the wraps themselves. So there's two different ways of making the wraps. One is using an iron, which I should plug in now. and the other one is using the oven. So the one that I'm going to show you this evening is the iron method, but I'll also just go through the steps of the oven method so you can try that at home as well if you want to. So the things that you see here are the supplies that we need. Obviously the ironing board. I've got an old towel on top of the board so that if I get any wax on the board, it just goes on the old towel, so it's not an issue. The beeswax here, this is beautiful beeswax that I've already pre-shredded. So I used just a regular home shredding shredder. But, you know, I don't know if you can see, but the wax does actually just stay on the shredder. So if you're going to use this for shredding your wax, you can't really use it for food again. But this is how it ends up after I shred it. Obviously, I compress it and put it in the bowl, and it just smells beautiful. Beeswax is just so beautiful. So obviously that's the main ingredient. And then of course we need the fabrics that I have here. So these fabrics I bought from Spotlight over in South Africa. I suppose if you go to a fabric shop, you could probably get some cotton there. The important thing with the fabric is that it needs to be 100% cotton and in a fine weave as well. So that it absorbs the wax well. So here I have different patterns. This is a beautiful indigenous turtle pattern. I've got some dolphins and I've got some shark heads and some beautiful tropical fish and little mermaids for young girls if that's what they like, and some coral as well. So, you know, obviously I've got marine theme because that's what we're doing here, protecting the marine environment. But of course, if you're into flowers or anything else, you just buy any fabric that you like. So another thing that you will need is actually a pair of scissors. So you can just use regular scissors, or you can use these pinking shears. So they're just scissors with an edge on them, so that you end up with a little pattern on the edge of the wraps. And if you're going to use the oven, then again you need like a cookie pan like this, but an old one again that you're not going to use, and a brush to brush your wax. And so anything that you use with the wax, unfortunately you're not going to be able to use again with your food. So that's just something to keep in mind. You'll need a pen and pencil and a ruler as well to mark off your fabric. And yeah, so that's all the supplies that you need. So what we're going to do is I've already done a pre-cut of the fabric just to make things simpler. I mean, everybody can measure and cut the fabric. So I sort of measure it from the back so it's easier to see my pencil mark. And I've made a 30 centimeter square piece. But again, you can make any size you want for depending what you wrap. This is really good for wrapping a sandwich, for example, or wrapping a piece of fruit, something like that. But you can make them smaller or bigger or any size that you like. So what I'll show you now is we've taken this fabric and we've cut it. So I'm going to put it on here. Now what I've done is I've pre-cut some baking paper. So I'm just going to put that on top of the towel so that the wax can actually stay on the wax paper and be absorbed in the fabric. So I'm going to put the fabric on top of the wax paper or the baking paper. And so what I've discovered is for a 30 centimeter piece, I'm using about 20 grams of beeswax. So I've got a scale here and a little dish. So I'm just going to measure out 20 grams, which is about that much. So it's about a little handful like that. So that's to start with. If you find that it's not enough, obviously you can just put more, but that's a good start. So what I do is I just break up the beeswax and I just spread it onto the fabric. Hopefully you can see that well enough, but I'm just breaking up little pieces and putting them on the fabric. Just spreading them out. Doesn't have to be in any particular order. And yeah, this wax is quite hard because it's been cold today, so it takes a little bit of pulling apart. Okay, so I've just spread it out like that. And then I get some more paper and I put it on top. Now that paper is not wide enough to cover my whole fabric, so I've actually cut another piece and just put it on top there. So now we're ready to start with the iron. So the important thing is here that you just use the top part of your iron. If you use the whole iron and you just iron the whole thing over and over and over, there is a tendency that the wax can actually burn, and it also burns the fabric underneath. So it's not a big issue. It just, you know, turns brown. It doesn't look that great. So what I do is I take the tip of the iron and I just press it gently onto the fabric and just wait until it melts. And as I said, today it might just take a little bit longer because this wax is pretty hard, but we have a bit of time. So I like to start from the middle and then just spread the wax out, all right? So I might have to put the whole iron on it just now because the wax is so hard, but I'm not actually leaving the iron on there for very long. So I'm just gonna melt the wax a little bit and then go back to using the tip and spreading that wax out to the edges. Yeah, so you just keep going like that. And as I said, you can make different sizes and different shapes. It doesn't have to be rectangular. You can make them round, whatever takes your fancy. But they're just really, really handy. And if you wash them just with cold water and dishwashing soap, they should last you a long time. And they actually make really great gifts as well. So if you make just like a handful of them, you can just package them in a little piece of paper and give them away as gifts. And then that way you're also encouraging other people to reduce their use of plastic. So yeah, so here we're going okay. It's just taking a little while. So I'm going to take it off now so to show you where I'm at. So just removing that. So if I hold it up, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that, but I haven't put a lot of wax on it. The top part still needs quite a bit of wax. So the easy way to do this as well is actually to hold it up against the light, and then you can see the light coming through the bits where you've actually missed the wax. So I'm just going to put this back on here and just add a little bit more wax just to the parts. It's just really, some fabrics it's easy to see where you need more wax and others are not. That's why holding it up against the light makes it easier to determine where you actually need to put the wax. It's a bit of a struggle tonight with this cold wax, even though I've heated up the room. Okay, we'll see how we go with that. Try it again. I always just put the wax paper on top. It doesn't really destroy or damage your iron. Sometimes you might get a little bit of wax on your iron and then you can just wipe it like that on the towel and then your iron is fine. So that's not a problem to use an iron for this purpose. Yeah, it's just taking it, like I said, it's just taking a bit longer tonight because the wax is quite hard and cold. So just keep going with that for just a little bit longer. Okay, and then when I think that I have the whole piece covered in wax, I do actually just run the whole iron over it just quickly to heat everything so that I can remove the wax paper easily without actually removing the wax from the piece itself. So that looks pretty good. It looks like it's pretty well covered. So I'm just gonna leave it there, let it dry. It doesn't take very long to dry at all, so I'll just leave it there. So while you're waiting for that one, you could easily cut up and make another one, and you can just keep going and going. So, you know, if you get fabric, you can really make good use of all the fabric that you have, and all the little bits and pieces, the edges as well that you have left over from when you cut your sizes, you can use them as well. So just quickly going through the process if you want to do it in the oven. Just gonna get that wax off my iron. Okay. So if you want to do it in the oven, the recommended temperature is very low, so it's probably about 100 degrees Celsius. So you've got your cookie pan, and this is another piece that I've pre-cut. So you're putting the cookie pan on your tray, and again, you're spreading the wax the same that I did on the ironing board. And in this case, you can actually fold it in half if it doesn't fully fit in your tray. So you can just have it like that. So you just pop that in the oven and just keep an eye on it, and you'll be able to see when the wax is melted. And that's when you come in with your brush. Obviously, always make sure you're using gloves when you're taking that cookie tray out of the oven and when you're lifting the fabric. And then you just use the brush to brush the wax over and even the wax out. And again, you can use the same procedure afterwards and just hold it up against the light and see where the bits of light come through, and then just add a bit more wax to those bits that are shining through. So that's the oven method. So what uses would you actually, have for the beeswax wrap? So just here on the table, I've got different things. These are beeswax wraps that I've had for years, actually. I think, most of these are maybe 4 or 5 years old. So if you look after them really well and just use cold water and dish soap, as I mentioned earlier, to wash them, then they can really last you a long time. So this is how I store all my food in the fridge. And because we're using beeswax, which is an antimicrobial, it actually allows your food to be stored longer and fresher in your fridge, because the natural beeswax will do that for the fruit and vegetable that you have. So let's see, what have I got wrapped in here? So we have a bit of red cabbage. So I made a cabbage salad the other day and I had some left over, so I just wrapped it up and put it there. This one here is my dinner tonight. So it's a zucchini slice, and I've put it, I've used this wax wrap. Obviously, I've baked it in the oven and I've waited for the tin to cool down, and then I've put the wrap over it and then put it in the fridge. So obviously any heat that you apply after you've made your wraps is going to remove the wax from your wrap. So you try to avoid exposing any of your wraps to heat. So this little one here, I've got half an avocado. So you see that's just a tiny little one. So you can make different sizes for different purposes. And of course you can also wrap. This is another part of my dinner tonight, my salad. And you can just wrap it over the plate the same as you would a cling wrap. And and if you find that that your wax wraps aren't actually folding that well, you can just hold them for a little while. They just need a little bit of warmth to melt the wax. And then that allows the wax to soften a bit and then actually stick to your dish or to itself, so that it keeps everything wrapped and sealed properly. So it seals things just as well as the cling wrap, and make it airtight as well. what I want to go with you as well is the beeswax wrap care, how to care for them. So Julie can put that in the chat box. So there's a little list of how to care for your beeswax wraps. But primarily, as I said before, you just want to keep them away from heat. So you keep them away from the microwave, hot water, dishwasher. Obviously, you don't want to put them in there. And as I said, just wash them with cold water and soap. And then what I do is I just put them on top of my dishes on the dish rack and just let them air dry. You can dry them as well with a dishcloth, but if you do that, make sure that they're very dry before you wrap them up and put them away. So this one here that I've just made, it's already dry. So I can just fold it up. You can just fold it up any way you like, and then just pop them in your cupboard. You just want to keep them dry and away from moist and mold. As I said, you need to just dry them properly before you put them away, but that's a good way to store them. So also, because you shouldn't wash them with hot water, you don't really want to wrap meat in them, because then that just passes the bacteria on and you're not able to fully remove the bacteria from the meat from your beeswax. But you can use your beeswax for anything else. You can also put them in the freezer. So if you're storing your food and you want to pop that in the freezer, probably no problem at all. Obviously, remember, you need to defrost the food and your beeswax wrap, because if you try to undo the beeswax wrap when it's frozen, it might just crack. So you want to make sure it's defrosted before you start opening it up. So like I said, these ones I've had for many, many years. And since I bought this wax a few months ago, to be honest, these ones were quite a bit worn out. The wax had, fallen off, or it had cracked off. So they were really in need of some refurbishment, to say. So what I did is I just followed the same procedure. I just used the same beeswax wraps, popped them in on top of the baking paper, added some more beeswax, and then just ironed them on and completely rejuvenated the same beeswax that I've had for so many years. So you can do the same, and they just keep going on and on and on. And last year, for, even though it says 8 to 12 months here, like I said, I've had them for so many years. So yeah, they're really very, very good. So we're using beeswax, of course, but it says here that it might have a distinct smell of beeswax, but it doesn't actually transfer onto your food. It would be, I think, a rare occasion when a beeswax wrap would transfer. I've never experienced that where, my food tastes like beeswax, so that's not a problem at all. And yeah, I think I've covered mainly all those points. Yeah, so that's basically how to use them, how to make them, how to care for them. And again, your fabrics, you can buy in a fabric shop, Spotlight here in Australia. Your wax, you should be able to buy that from a farmer's market, or maybe a craft shop or a health food shop. Sometimes they have beeswax as well. And so this one that I have here actually has pine resin and coconut oil in it. So it actually allows the beeswax wraps to be a little bit more flexible. So if you wanted that option, you can always get something like that. So you probably just need to Google where you can find something like that. But I find that this wax has been really good. So yeah, if you need to find out where to get it, I can give you the contacts for that here in Australia, of course. So are there any questions?
You're free to turn your microphones on if you'd like to ask a question. No? Yeah, you told them everything they need to know.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Can I just add something to that? I noticed you've pre-grated your wax and you kind of scrunched it into a ball. When I'm doing mine, I tend to just grate it and just put it loosely into a plastic bag And that way it's much finer and easier to use. You can just pull it out and kind of sprinkle it on like salt. So
yeah, that would be an easier way. I think I scrunched them up a little bit too tight, definitely. I used them a few months ago and I needed to scrunch them up and put them in a box, and I had actually plastic around them to keep them sort of moist. But yeah, I think that would be a much better idea to just leave it loose in a plastic bag.
Bimbo's got a question.
Yes, it's about, sorry, Susie, hi there. I'm thinking about if you keep your food in there, you put it in the freezer, does food not lose taste? You know, some of the things, you know, putting food in the freezer for extended periods of time may make the food lose taste or change, you know, somehow get taste affected. Is this foolproof to test? Just think, asking a question, how is it?
Yeah, well, look, definitely, you're right. Any food that's left in the freezer for a long period of time will be frost damaged and lose its flavor. I haven't really tested, to be honest, how long, you know, I can put something in the freezer. And of course, it depends what food that you're freezing. Some foods don't freeze as well as others. But for example, my zucchini slice, you know, I could put that in the freezer as is like that. And I think I would guess, I haven't tried it, but I would guess easily a couple of months I could leave it like that. And it is sealed tight. So, you know, I mean, again, if you put things in a plastic bag and freeze them, you still, and they've been in the freezer for a long time, they're still going to develop freezer frost. They still get damaged. So, you know, obviously it's about using your food as soon as possible. But yeah, I think with the beeswax wraps, it at least depends on the food that you're using, lasts for a couple of months in the freezer, I would say.
Thank you very much. And this looks very, very useful. And we're going to try it now. We just are going for it now. Yeah, thank you.
Were you able to source any beeswax? Do you know where you might be able to get it from?
Yes, we have been on the internet. We can find it from here.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
let me know how you go with it.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll share. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I just wondered if I could ask a question.
Of course.
Are they suitable for cheese?
Yes, definitely. You know how a lot of cheeses already, like the really good quality cheeses, come wrapped in wax already?
Of course.
Yeah. So these ones are perfect. You just literally just put your cheese block inside and just wrap it. So absolutely perfect for cheese. Yeah, for sure.
So it's just meat. It's meat that you shouldn't use.
Yeah, that's right. It's just meat because of the extra bacteria that meat has. And so even though it is beeswax, you know, and it is antimicrobial, I think the meat aspect of it would just be a bit too hard, especially chicken. You don't want to sort of be dealing with that kind of bacteria, especially if it's raw, you know. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I've always learned how to do this, so thank you.
That's so great. That's so great. Yeah, I hope that that you're able to find the supplies that you need and make it. And it's like I said, you see how easy it is, and it's a lot of fun, and they really do make such great gifts. And then, you know, you can spread the word as well about protecting the environment. So
one thing you didn't mention, Susie, is you really should wash your fabric before you put the wax on it.
Yes, you need to wash it before you use it, of course. Yeah.
So just wash it in the washing machine, hang it out on the line.
Yes.
Nice sunshine.
Thank you.
And don't put fabric softener in it.
No. Yeah. No, thanks for that, Julie. Was there anything else I might have forgotten?
No, but I'm going to send that beeswax wrap care via email to our lovely listeners because I can't get it into the chat box. So
Yep.
I've got their email addresses, so I'll send that off via email tonight
All right.
or this morning for those that are they're in Africa.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Great. All right. So if nobody's got any more questions, we might end it there. Thank you so much, Susie. It was wonderful.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you for joining us. It's been awesome being able to present this to you. And thank you so much to Reef Check Australia for giving me this opportunity to share this with you. It's really, it's really interesting to do something like this online, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you
Thank
make
you
some
very
wraps, feel free to share them on Facebook and tag Reef Check Australia and we can check out your efforts.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful. And this is cost effective. It's cost effective. You don't have to buy things we throw away. Thank you very much.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's just a one-time investment and you look after them well and they'll look after you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
God bless. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day over in South Africa and have a lovely evening, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.